Hey, glad you can make it. Welcome to Fantasy Dad Pods, where dad bods are glorified and dad jokes are encouraged. I'm JT, accompanied by Sean. Sean, how we doing?
We're doing good. We're doing good. It's getting a spring over here. We got actually. I mean, I don't know. I assume you're outside too. It got hot. It got hot here. So that means favorite time of the year. It's lawn. I already got my fertilizer ready, and my dad got the sprinklers on. Sunday dinner with the family, and sprinklers were on when we rolled up. So I was like, oh man, I should probably get mine on. So yeah, did a couple things around the house. Put up shelves in the baby's room. Like I'm 9 months late on it, but we got it done technically before he turned one, so we're there. He doesn't need to use them yet, so
I was gonna say he's not using them, so
I mean, we're putting stuff on it, but he ain't. So, um, but no, I got up today at 6:30 and went to Home Depot at 7 as they roll up. And I'll tell you what, JT, you want to see an empty store? Go to Home Depot at 7 a.m. There's like 4 people in the parking lot with me, and I think 3 of them or 2 of them were employees. So it
wow.
was real empty in there.
Do you want to
Right.
see a busy Home Depot? I went there, the same Home Depot that you went to, but at noon.
Oh,
You want to see a
I
busy Home Depot? That's the time to go.
I was there for maybe 10 minutes, and I think 5 or so cars pulled up. So I could see it because it was a Sunday. I'm like Sunday before church or whatever it had been going on. It was getting packed, but I was like, no one was there when it opened. It's not a Costco style. Costco has a line.
Yeah.
No line
Man,
at
you,
Home Depot at 7 a.m.
you
But
planned this well. I went at noon. I was there for 2.5 hours.
yeah,
So,
to be fair, I was gonna go to Lowe's. We're talking about we're way into the thick of things, but that's what people are here for. I was gonna go to Lowe's because my wife was like, I don't think these parts are at Home Depot, and I got there and I'm glad I checked because it's on the way based on where our
mm-hmm.
houses are. You got to pass. I'm like, I'm just gonna check because I'm
Might
pretty
as
sure,
well.
and they were there. All the parts were there, so I was like, we're good. So I only had to go to Harbor Freight and buy a pressure washer after that. Got a sick deal
Okay.
on it, but that was nice. But I was like, so I rolled in there, and that's because I was like, it's 7 a.m. Like I waited till about 7 a.m. So I was like, I'll go by Home Depot if it's on the way, and then Lowe's will be after that because I was anticipating having to go to Lowe's. Didn't have to. I mean, nothing against Lowe's or Home Depot, just Home Depot is so much closer for us. So I was like,
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna hit it up on the way and see if it is there. And yeah, it was there. So I got my stuff. But yeah, I knew what aisle it was because I checked it out the couple days before. And I was just like, because I looked at it, so I was like, I was in there, right in there, boom, 3 items left. So I didn't have to like. I did try to call the wife because she wanted some like topsoil. We're planting some like she's all bit. She got a raised garden bed. She's all in the stuff. I saw you posted. You got some blueberries going in, so we're all about that too. Or she is. I can't cook. I can't grow anything, so I ain't gonna touch nothing. But I tried to FaceTime her, but she's wrestling the 2 kids. So I was like, I'm already out of here. So I was picking up green donuts at Krispy Kreme's parking lot
There
after
you
that.
go.
So I didn't know they were green. They were surprised that when I got home, I was just like, I just want some glazed. And then my son was very pumped when he saw they were green. So
Nice.
yeah, he was pretty pumped. So that was it. That was what we did this week. Like it's getting ready for real dad season. I feel like. How about you?
I'm just kind of daydreaming about your glazed donuts because I'm still on my diet. Doing well. I have a better dad bod, but I think I'll just always have the dad bod at this
Yeah. Oh
point.
yeah.
But
hmm
being down 40 is pretty sweet. And
Yeah.
but yeah, I had a lettuce wrapped turkey burger for dinner, so it's like it was solid. Extra pickle,
There's nothing
But
wrong with it. That's you just ruined it. There's nothing wrong with a lettuce wrap. We do that here. We actually grow our
right,
own lettuce. That's what the wife does. So like,
right.
there's nothing wrong with the lettuce wrap.
Yeah, that's pretty easy to grow, thankfully.
But
So
you lost me at the pickles. You lost me at the
yeah.
pickles. We're out of there.
We had a batting cage kind of drop-in practice on Friday for the team I'm coaching for my oldest, and that was pretty fun. Got
Where's the
about
batting
half the.
cage at now? Sorry, I was going to get specific with our location, but I know the one that I
Oh
used to go
yeah.
to closed or
Oh
moved.
no, this is just like at the ball field, bombing
Oh, okay,
range.
okay. I thought there was like because there's one that's like we're gonna get way out here, way out by like silos over there. Specific. It's like
Yeah,
D line or something like not
D-bat.
drag line, D bat. Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's the only one I know of. Okay. Okay.
yeah. D-bat's pretty impressive.
Sure.
I've been there a couple times, but I only had just gone within the last few weeks ever. It's pretty cool. It's pretty legit.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, we went just because there's like 3 batting cages, like, lanes out in
Yeah.
right field off field 2 Bomb Range Road. And then field 4 has one on each foul line. And so all the practice, every backstop is booked, and pretty much by the AAA and the major league levels. So we kind of get the leftovers. So we did I just did hitting practice and pitching practice Friday, and then Saturday we try to do a mini scrimmage, but again only had like half the team. But it's beautiful, full 2 hours of scrimmage. So that was great. And then today was just a bunch of like yard work. So can't complain, but
Sun is out here.
yeah,
Sun's out. I was gonna tell
yeah,
you, you're probably in the same boat. So I did track growing up. The wife and me went to high school together. And I didn't wear a shirt probably 4 years of high school, and runner's bod, nothing like that. And my wife started dating me. We're 25 or so, and she's like, "Now you have a dad bod." As soon as I started dating, I was like, to your point, I go, "Yeah, that bod is never coming back. Like, it's just this is what it's going to be for life." And I work out almost every day just to keep this bod. So because I like eating Krispy Kreme donuts, so that's what I do. I have to work out every day, so I don't roll out of my office chair. So that's sorry that 18-year-old ate McDonald's every day bod is not come back from top. The bodies just don't work that way anymore. Sorry, wife.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
not.
Just get used to it, sister. Sorry. What can
Yeah,
you say? I mean,
yeah,
it's better than that one guy watching. He's watching his wife, and she's starting to drink, and she's yelling at the TV. She's like, "Don't go in there! Don't go in the church, you moron!" And the husband's like, "Hey, what are you watching? Wait, that's our wedding video. What's going on?"
yeah. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah. We're not
we're
adults
not there.
years here, but we're not sexy man Bartolo Colon style either. We're in the middle there. We're in the middle. We're okay. We're okay. We're hanging on.
Yeah,
But you know who does have good mods? Starting pitchers. They got the. I mean, we did talk about catchers, but they also got some dump trucks too. So,
thunder thighs.
and we're talking Spencer Strider.
It's
Like,
just all the power is in the base.
you got it. You've got it, and the stash. It's got to help, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, like classic mustache. Two things we're gonna do pitchers now. Two things pitchers need to do: stashes, goggles. Like you at least get a mile an hour for each, right? Like if you're due with a goggle and a stash, like that's 2 miles an hour on your fastball, easy. It's just science, really, at this point.
Oh
Like
yeah,
I need more goggles in my life, basically.
and close third maybe is a little bit of flow. I appreciate
Oh,
like an
little less.
edgy head,
Yeah,
yeah, little
yeah,
edgy haircut going on.
yeah. There's too much.
Um,
There's too much high and tights. Let it go a little bit.
yeah, because you got to be a wild man. I mean, you're dictating everything. You're setting the tone. I mean, the Max Scherzer really just exemplifies the intensity that I want to see out of a starting pitcher.
I was watching the Once Upon a Time in Queens, the documentary, the 86 Mets, the World Series run.
Mm-hmm.
If you had a Jerry curl as dripping wet as Doc's, that's how he was so good. It was all hair. It was all hair, and I'm just like, who's gonna bust it out this year? Who can rock a Jerry curl here? Is what I'm looking at. I don't know, man. I don't know if all these guys got swag. Some of them do. Spencer Strider does, but I'm like, come on. I need to see a
I
Jerry curl.
I reference this quite a bit. It's Deion Sanders. It's look
Oh,
good, feel good, play good. I mean, it just if you play
yeah.
good, they pay good. You pay good, you live good.
Speaking of Jerry curl,
So
yeah, Deion Sanders in those videos. Yeah. So that's classic stuff. Well, okay, so I guess we'll just go right into it. Spencer Strider, number one with a bullet. Boom. He's the number one dude, right? Not too
yep,
much. Yeah,
yep.
not too much bluster there. Speaks for itself. He strikes a bunch of dudes out. And also, it's spring training stats, but I just saw Orioles guy.
Grayson
No, the
Rodriguez or
Twitter guy, really famous Orioles fan.
oh, that covers the
Sort of, but it's man, I can't remember his name now. It's gonna drive me crazy. But he was talking about Spencer Strider's numbers in spring training and 0 ERA from all his and tons and tons of strikeouts. So It's still going. He's even messing around in spring training, and still people are missing. So Spencer Strider, yeah, number one. Then it gets a little fun here. I've long been a Zach Wheeler stan, but I never thought I'd see a day where he was the number 3 ranked starting pitcher. I never thought that. But here we are. So they have, I don't know, JT, how you want to go about it? They got a little. I mean, we're splitting hairs here with gaps or tiers because all these guys are really close. We're every like 3 or 4 players as a starting pitcher, but
Hmm.
I mean, it's got Corbin Burns, Zach Wheeler is the next two. Is that is that kind of think how the order should go for you? You think?
Oh man,
Yeah, starting pitchers. It's basically like after Spencer Strider, it's like a whatever you like,
yeah,
and then everybody
and
falls in a range. Yeah.
we should say, shout out to Garrett Cole. Sorry about the
Yes.
arm.
Would
Otherwise,
Garrett Cole be pretty close to Spencer Strider? I feel like, right? It would not be as easy of a runaway, right? If Garrett Cole's healthy.
yeah, I think Cole would be
It's
a 1B pretty
yeah,
solidly, but I think you could just be okay with that.
yeah.
Yeah,
Spencer
squarely
Strider's
number
definitely close
two
to one. Yeah, but Garrett Cole. I mean, if Garrett Cole
previously.
healthy, I mean, he won a Cy Young. If Garrett Cole like was over Spencer Strider a healthy full season, wouldn't shock me. But yeah, I think he'd be number
Yeah,
2 between Corbin Burns. Yeah.
I'm good with Burns and Wheeler. I mean, 2024, and I think of an ace. Think of a, you know, just the longevity, the stats you want in fantasy, leading, the team. It's them. I mean, it's yeah, and probably in that order. I'm good with Burns. I'm believing in him, and Wheeler. Yeah, it's crazy coming from what he used to be with the Mets, and he was kind of like the not quite the afterthought, but he was SP4 back then with Thor in front of him and Harvey, and so it's just like he's still doing it. He's
He's
almost
getting
Mister
like
Consistent. Yeah,
he's like basically turned like 29, 30 during COVID, and it was like, I'm good now. Like, really good. Like, oh, like he was always solid. I always liked him. I was always liked him as like a later round guy. Like, oh, mid 3 ERA, doesn't strike out a ton of guys, but strikes out a
hmm
decent amount. Like, one an inning. Here we go, nothing crazy, mid 3 ERA, and then he's like, oh, sub 3. I do, and I strike out. I strike out more than an inning. I'm like, oh, all right then. Like here, and he's been doing it for 3 years now. So yeah, just
yeah,
a guy now. He's a
and
dude.
the
He's
and
a
the
dude.
K percent going up, and
Mhm.
the whip just dropping low. It's almost all the way to 1. I mean, it's just like it's been impressive, wrangling his walk percentage. Yeah, he's gotten better every year.
Yeah, no,
Um,
for sure, for sure. And Corbin Burns, yeah, I for sure believe number 2. He just got off to a rough start last year. ERA was a little inflated, but he settled in second half of the year. I'm not worried
yeah,
about it. Yeah, like there's nothing. And then him in Baltimore. I mean, it's obviously a harder division, but his game strike. Like a lot of these elite guys, their game strikeouts anyways. They're not contacts. Not if you make contact, that's not the point of their game. So
right.
I'm not worried about it. They're going up there to strike out Aaron Judge, not get him to induce weak contact. So it doesn't matter who the batter is. Corbin Burns strike you out. Yeah, I think those are 3. Then I kind of had a little gap, I guess, technically, but Luis Castillo, I kind of like Zach Wheeler, I believe has been kind of criminally underrated the last couple of years because he's been in Cincinnati. Um, but yeah, he's good at throwing baseballs for strikes and striking people out. 220 strikeouts last year. Yeah, a little higher ERA, so I do believe he should be the 4th one here. But him, we talk about. I just talked about how it doesn't really matter too much, but him pitching in Seattle is nice for pitchers. So yeah, I am totally confident with a 31-year-old Luis Castillo being number 4. I think he's. I don't have a problem with it. I do. There's a lot of people who say George Kirby might leapfrog him. We could talk about him because he's number 6. So it goes Luis Castillo, Pablo Lopez, George Kirby, and Kevin Gossman, all really close. What do you think? Do you think George Kirby finishes above Luis Castillo this year? Do you think this is like George Kirby's like, I'm here now?
I I I feel like you could in the fact that what what was it on Twitter we talked about? It was oh yeah, Kirby. walking more would be a good sign.
Hmm.
And him playing up to his secondaries, who like they all seem to be getting better. Um, and that four seamer's legit, and it's just what can touch 100. He's got elite command control and plus secondaries. It's just like he's just gaining experience. You
Hmm.
know, he's Skynet. He's almost self aware. It's scary.
They say he
But
picks up crazy quick, and he threw a nasty knuckleball last year. I mean, come on, do it again, Kirby. Come on.
yeah,
Did you
yeah,
see? Did you see the Seattle Mariners actually had to program their tracking data to account for knuckleballs this offseason because of George Kirby? They were like, we didn't. They didn't officially have it registered at spring training because no one in their entire org throws a knuckleball or ever has. And then George threw it last year, and the guy was like, "Now I have to program this thing because you threw a
yeah.
knuckleball."
Thanks a bunch.
And that's what that. He's like, some intern is like, really, like, but yeah, he said he wants to throw it. So knuckleball's coming this year. George is bringing it back.
Yeah. Oh gosh, obviously I think longevity wise, but season to season, 2024, I'm okay with either.
Yeah.
I'd be super pleased to have either as my ace on my fantasy staff.
Pablo Lopez, Gossman. What do you thought? What are your thoughts? They're the sandwich to this Mariners duo here. What do you think?
I think Pablo's legit. Obviously Gossman's got a little bit of an injury concern right now. What is it? Not projected to be ready for opening. It's shoulder. I'm scared of shoulders in general, but it's just saying it's fatigue, so that's fine. They don't want to push him long season, so I'm okay with leaving Gossman, towards the bottom of this tier. But I don't think there's quite any reason to like have him slide too much. But I mean, everyone takes certain amount of risk, and that's probably just up to you. But I think both just face value. Super legit. Lopez gaining that extra velocity of recent, um, tons of strikeouts, and just more of a I think more of a pitcher.
Yeah.
I just kind of trying to remember his Miami days, and I'd have to look it up, but I want to say he was just like a two pitch pitcher, and I feel like his arsenal has improved. Um, so I'm good with either. I'd probably lean Lopez just because of the division he's going to have to face over Gossman if I'm just trying to decide between drafting either one. Whereas Gossman's in the AL East beast.
Yeah.
It'd just be probably most likely an easier schedule overall. How about you?
I if both are healthy, I actually have Gossman number one, but I
Okay.
think it's so close with this that any slight hiccup we talk about with outfield is going to bump him down. So I agree with you right now. I have Pablo Lopez over Gossman just simply because Lopez is healthy and shoulders linger, man. Like I hope it's not, but like you said, they make me nervous. So that's just enough to like bump Gossman down. Before I think he's probably right where he should be. I might even we can believe this now and have it below Zach Gallen at this point. Like, because again, like that's not a knock on Gossman. That's just like Zach Gallen's really also good at throwing baseballs. Like, so like if you're nicked up a little bit, I'm gonna roll with that. And Zach Gallen threw over 200 innings last year. That's day and age, like that's awesome. Like I'm all about it. You're gonna tell me you're gonna get 200 innings,
Right.
like 200 good innings, I'll take that. So I'd even probably drop him below Zach Gallen. Where I draw the line, though, not a bad line, is Yamamoto at number 9 here. They have him Gallen and Yamamoto going next to each other. Um, I'll let you go. What are your thoughts on Yamamoto? One, I guess, do you have him here, or where do you have him if you don't have him here? And general thoughts on Yamamoto.
Oh man, I don't have him here. Let's just throw that
How
out
far
there
down?
at
And then
first.
how far down?
Oh man, I'd have to. This
So
is
like we could
so
scroll quite a bit. Then is that what you're saying? Like, to find a
not
spot?
necessarily. Um, I don't know. I'm trying to.
Yeah, no, I put you on the spot, but yeah, like
I think he's. I mean, is top 20. I mean, that's a really big range, but definitely don't have him top 10. And we're what, fringe 10 right here?
Yeah, he's at 9 so far. Is
So, yeah, I don't.
you drop him down to like the Lizardo, Joe Ryan territory, 22, 23 around there. Bobby Miller.
I'd still probably.
Oh, the other guys? Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Justin Steele, Cole Reagans,
it's
Joe
no,
Joe
it's still
Montero.
above it. Still above that. I think the cutoff for me is where you get to like the right after Framber and Peralta and Grayson and Logan Gilbert. Like you get to
About 27.
Eflin, and I'm like, Eflin or Yamamoto. Then I feel like I'm starting to get more comfortable.
Okay,
How
so
about
like,
you?
okay, I'll say that. Yeah. Man, I really don't want to copy you, but yeah, I think Eflin. Eflin is I do have a question about Grayson Rodriguez, but like, I guess less than
Mm-hmm.
Eflin. I would put him after Eflin at 20. Exactly at 20. I guess I'll have Eflin above him and above Blake Snell. One spot above Blake Snell. I feel like that is the 20th spot is like I'll put Yamamoto in the Blake Snell, Bobby Miller, Lizardo category because of like those are like I have more questions than the people above them. People above them, I'm like, I know what your floor is. I feel like if Grayson Rodriguez, Logan Gilbert, Zach Eflin, I'm like, here's Max Fried, here's your floor. You know what I mean? Like, I got a general idea of who you are. Snell, by Miller, Lazardo, I'm like, it's very less sure. And Yamamoto falls into that category. So I probably have about 20. I guess I'll talk about it. So I've heard lots of things about like the stuff plays up everywhere. I've heard this is like other players talking about like a podcast of ex players saying like this off speed stuff is just nasty. Like it's just crazy. It's disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
They're just worried about fastball trajectory. He's a smaller
Yes.
guy. The trajectory seems to be pretty flat. There's not a lot of movement to it. Also a Paul Skeens issue. We'll get to that later. But like they're just like we're wondering how much he's going to use the fastball year one if it is this flat. And so talent is there. Talent is, and maybe he picks up some movement on the fastball. You know, he's going to be with major league staffs. He's going to be with, you know, Otani, who can obviously his stuff works. You know, the majors like so. It's like
Mm-hmm.
guys that are around here that could just teach you a little thing, or you know, some people pick up this stuff faster than others. The famous example is Robbie Ray told George Kirby, he's like, "Hey, do this like with a splitter," and he picked up within 2 weeks. He said. So not everybody's gonna be that fast, but there are guys at this level who are just like, I'm just gonna throw this ball, and then just like, boom, they can figure it out. So I don't know much about Yamamoto in the way of that, but like that's not out of the question. Like he could just be like, oh, I have movement on my fastball now one day. So that's the
Right.
case. He skyrockets up this thing, but it does make me a little nervous how flat that fastball is. And I mean, I mean, nervous enough that he's going to drop down to like, let's be real here, like the 60th player. You know what I mean? Like, so we're not like, this guy's not coming off a cliff, but like, we're talking like maybe 70th, like the 70th overall person pick. So I just am a little nervous. And, you know, fastball, primarily fastball, that's what's going to get you there. And if your off speed stuff's nice, it's still secondary. So yeah, I drop him a little bit because of that. And
Yeah.
there's people who've said otherwise, like they're like, hey, this is really good. We'll raise him for this. But I've just heard enough that it's just like, hey, it is not like that he's going to be like a 4 ERA or like 5 ERA. He's going to be, they're like, he's still going to be rookie of the year, like contention. It's just, they said, I guess someone described it as like Cy Young contention or just rookie of the year contention is what we're talking about with this guy. And people are like, because of the fastball, we're probably more putting him into the rookie of the year contention window versus Cy Young. And if he figures out the movement on the fastball, then he moves into the Cy Young because the other stuff's all just already there. So, I mean, the speed, the velo, everything's there. It's just like we need some movement on that stuff, and that's basically it. That's how I feel. So, just a tier less. That's basically how he's dropping.
Yeah. To me, he almost reminds me of what's his real name? I would say Big Time Timmy Jim. Tim Lincecum. Sorry.
I mean, that is his name. It's Big Time Timmy Jim. Yeah,
um,
that's a good comp. Actually, I didn't think about that.
and
I
like
kind of forgot about someone to come.
it's
Yeah,
the full body motion, the super flexibleness.
smaller
It's a
guy. Yeah,
smaller stature,
yeah.
getting the most out of your delivery. And I watched a couple things on just like the way because he's kind of got that like slide step delivery doesn't do the traditional kind of like drop and drive and push or whatever. Um, but yeah, the secondaries are there. It's just the fastball is the question mark, and yeah, everything else you said, I agree with. But like, we'll just kind of see how it all falls into place. And I'm also kind of just wondering how many innings,
Yeah.
how if they want him to see the third
Do
time
you know how
through
many
the
pitched?
lineup, if not.
Do you know how many pitched over there? I know that you're the KBO master, but like,
Oh,
like, how do you know how much you threw over there? Like,
I don't, but I think I could find it on Fangraphs fairly
I know
quickly.
like Japanese players, their high school stuff is really big, so they throw a lot of innings in like the high school tournaments. I just honestly, I know their major league season is shorter over there. I just don't know innings wise what they're looking at because he's what 25 guys 25. So I don't know like how many years has he thrown 160 innings. Like, is he okay to throw 200 if he's healthy? Like, I just don't know. I guess that's something we probably should have figured out before. But
Right. Okay, so 2023, let's see. Two teams combined 171 innings pitched.
combined
2022 193 innings
now,
pitched. 2021 193. So,
so like he threw 170, and then he also played in the World Baseball Classic last year as well. So probably tack on some more innings with that as well.
probably again another
Probably
probably
close to
yeah,
100. Okay, so then innings is probably
close to 200 each.
okay. That's what the top tier people are throwing anyways. Okay, so maybe innings isn't an issue. And he's 25. He's been doing it a couple of years. He's got that arm strength for sure. Okay.
Right. It's fun looking at these
Oh, I
these
bet.
stats from the Japanese league. Um, and it's always been said the Japanese league is kind of a AAA equivalent.
I've
So
heard it's like double A, and then recently it's been bumped up to like, yeah, in the last couple of years it's been for sure triple A. Like the people have noticed because that was kind of the saying was like KBO and the Japanese league were like, oh, that's like double A at best, and more people that have been talking about it have said, yeah, it's climbing for sure. Like,
yeah, I'd still think KB is probably still double A or like
yeah,
the elite of the double A, yeah, but yeah, pretty impressive. The since 20, oh my gosh, hold on, rewind. He's every year he's no, except for his first year. As an
oh,
18-year-old, he had the worst whip at 1.06. And then every year since then, it's been below one. Like, obviously, he wasn't pitching too many innings at 18 and 19, but once he got to 20 years old, they had him go 149 innings that
those are
year.
contact leagues too, so whips should be theoretically higher too, since it's less boom
Hmm.
or bust over there. Like they're more making contact. Okay.
Yeah. So, um, roughly, even in the last 3 years, a K per nine, um, K to walk rate about 5 to 1 ratio. That's great, especially keeping the whip low. So he obviously had classed that league
Yeah.
and is
Yeah.
ready for a new challenge. So yeah, it'll be exciting.
I'm just kind
We
of
can
insulted that they think that he's going to pitch 28 games and they think they're going to lose 7 games with that lineup. Like 13 and 7, that's insulting. Like
right.
that Dodgers lineup, like kind of how dare you? Yeah. Anyways, yeah. Okay.
Well, he'll have to go to Colorado a couple times, and those secondaries aren't going to spin as well. Maybe that's
That's
the
true. He will have to face Logan Webb though in San Francisco, who also man, I want to. I don't want to say like everybody's underrated. I feel like, but I feel like the
hmm
next two guys, Logan Webb and Scooble, your keeper boy. You just announced keepers.
Yep.
The 10, 11. I'll say this: Logan Webb for sure. Scooble, I am a little like hesitant on it. It's two major jumps. Like boom, boom, boom. Like I'm just like whoa, and it was only 80 innings last year, but he always had the pedigree. So there's no
Right.
reason to like believe it's just more of like I need to see it for, a little bit longer to have him maybe this high. Maybe, like 11th pitcher taken, 40th overall, but like if you butt me down to the Yamamoto range, maybe like behind Snell and Bobby Miller, maybe I'm okay with that. But I think he's a little high at this point. Like if I
Yeah.
told me to take him up 70th overall, because like my only issue with Tyler Glass now is health. And if he's healthy, I just think I don't know if there's a world in which, and I mean it could be wrong, but like odds are the world in which Scooble's better than Glass now. If both are healthy, I don't know if it's there. And that's not a knock on Scooble. That's just how good Glass now is, like when healthy. So,
Right.
so I'm just like I'm more willing to bet on a Glass now and an Aaron Nola and a Framer Valdez than you know, coming off a great, you know, he had a really good year before, or a pretty good year the year before at 100 and what 117 innings, pretty solid year, good amount of strikeouts, everything like that, low walk. But it's just like then he came back, had a better year, but just like cut the innings, you know, to 80. So I'm just like, I need to see it get me to like 150 innings of like, it doesn't have to be last year, just like be 2 years ago at 150 innings, and we're in this range. But I just need to see it. It's a show me year for him basically to get up to this range, I guess.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I mean, if we're sliding down Yamamoto, I think I'm putting Webb in the right at number 10,
Yeah,
probably behind Gossman, and I'd slide Gallen up closer to Kirby. But then from there, yeah, I'd probably go with Glass now. I'd be okay with Scooble or Nola or Framber. I'm okay with it right there. With Logan Webb, it's an elite changeup. It's probably the best in the game. And if he can figure out his secondary, which is I gotta look it up, slider. It used to, I mean, like it was pretty dang good, and then it's been hiding. It's been a little bit shy recently. So super stable, just like good floor, um, and a ceiling and a great ballpark. So it's all a good setup there. But yeah, I agree with you with Scooble, and it's kind of been the velo question, and he's kind of shown it in spring training. He's held the velo, so that's a really good sign.
I also
So,
think it's not. I think with Detroit, with all of their young pitchers that came up and they all fizzled out,
hmm
that's more of an organizational thing. That those people have all been cleared out, and at least Scooble and some others have shown steps, and I think that's not a coincidence. I think it's just like get fresh eyes on all of these kids that clearly had talent. Because Detroit wasn't the only one drafting like the Mannings and the Scooble and all these guys that high.
hmm
Everyone was going to, so the talent's there. It's just like you've got to help them develop a little better, and I think that's something that should be not ignored as well. I think getting these like people to actually help these pitchers develop, and as they got better, I don't think it was an accident either. So that's why I'm buying into what Scooble's thing is. It's just like I just got to see you do it for 150 innings or so, like one time, and then it's go time at that point.
yeah, yeah. Gosh, I'm looking at Glass now. It's the health.
Yeah,
I almost feel like I'd put Nola. God, I
yeah.
don't know, because when Glasnow's
That sounds
healthy,
good.
he's so good.
Yeah, he is just really good, but he is 30 and he always gets hurt, so he's not getting younger.
Yeah,
Let's just call it what it is because the innings are, I don't say gross because I don't want to blame him, but they are not.
yeah,
I mean, he's pitched over 100 innings one time since 2018. Like he pitched basically a full season in 2020. I mean, for what it's worth, but you know what I mean. Like, but like just yeah, has not been great. And I don't blame him last year for 2022 for TJ. It happens, but still, it's
yeah. And he got to 120 last year, which is a really good sign. So I feel like he could at least push 150
yeah.
if needed. If
The Dodgers also get the most out of their guys, but they also his issue isn't needing to get the most out of the Dodgers. Issue is the pitchers always get hurt, and that is his issue. So I'm like,
right,
you're already maximized. I don't need you to be maximized. I need you to be healthy, and the Dodgers don't do that. And I'm like, okay, well, it's almost like if he'd went somewhere else, it would have been like a little better. Like a team that like has a track record of keeping their pitchers healthy would have like made me feel better. But these innings for what they're going to be is going to be awesome. Like that's what now
right.
they're going to be fantastic. But
Yeah,
just
I like. I mean, I'm gonna group Freed in here too, with just like the Glasnow vibe. It's elite when he's healthy, and it's just he hasn't completely been healthy. Um, Probably definitely younger, right? Oh my gosh, how old's Max Freed? Oh, you
30.
looked it up.
I just looked it up. He's put a lot more innings though. Like Glass now just disappears, but like Max Fried is getting until like last year, like
Yeah,
160. You know what I mean? Like it's not like he's missing a number of starts, but it's not like Glasnauer's like 8, or like 80. Like I'm just like, at least Fried is doubling that every year he's pitching basically. So it's just like, okay, at least like I know he's hurt, but like he's not Glasnow hurt at least. So
Yeah, that's weird. In my head, I was said 28,
Glasnow,
so
Glasnow is
him
what I
being
feel like
30
is
is
just
tough.
like a tier higher James Paxton. James Paxton was super underrated, just could never stay healthy. That dude
Mhm.
was like just churning dudes out. But like Glasnow's a step higher, his ceiling's higher, but he just never is healthy. And it's just like that's how I view him. I'm like just a slightly better Paxton his whole career basically. Like and
Felt
he just get 100 innings basically.
Yeah, fellow teammate. If they just shake hands and like, hey, let's
I
just
just
both.
forgot that. I
Yeah.
had forgotten that James Paxton is a Dodger. So that was an accidental like thing there. Okay, yeah. I had
Yeah.
forgotten that James Paxton was a Dodger. They got all of the hurt pitchers. That's right. I should just assume that all the hurt pitchers are in LA now. They'll manage
Yeah.
the rotation.
I
Um,
quick note in my head, every time I see Max Fried, I'm like, oh yeah, Jack Flaherty's high school teammate. Could you imagine facing off against those guys 1-2 in high school?
it's not cool. That's not cool. It's isn't it like wasn't it like David Wright was his teammates with the Upton brothers? Like
Yeah.
those three in a lineup? Are you
Like
kidding me? like,
like over several years, right? They had like
yeah,
little
they
league
grew
photos
like
together and they had like high school yeah,
yeah.
tons of
Imagine like
different.
being middle school and facing those three in a lineup, and like, come on, like you're like, and then you like looking back, you're like, well, at least I got slaughtered for a reason, like at least I wasn't like that bad. They're all major leaguers for 10+ years, so that make you feel better. But yeah,
Right.
like
It's like when Joe Mauer had his like Hall of Fame induction to the Twins Hall of Fame. They brought out the one guy that struck him out in his high school career. He only
struck
in
out
so in it was his freshman year. So this random guy comes out and he waves to the crowd and he hands the ceremonial ball to throw. He hands it to Mauer as like a handoff. Like they just brought him out. They just called him up out of the blue. You want to come do this? Heck yeah! It's his only claim to fame. Like that'd be so cool to just to have that in your back pocket.
Joe Mauer, underrated, just couldn't stay healthy because that's the catcher. Dude's a beast. Dude is a
Right.
beast. Yeah. So like here we're Framer Valdez 14, Freddie Peralta 15. I don't have a problem with either of those. Probably in this tier somewhere around there. It's totally fine, right? You just disagree with any of those guys?
Um.
Maybe
I'm
maybe Freddie's a little high, but I
see.
mean,
Framber's my question mark.
really, I
Yeah. I feel like Freddie's okay. Grayson's okay there. Like Framber's my question
what's the question
mark.
with it? Because
I'm
the numbers will be
trying. I was trying to think if I can group Gilbert in there too. Framber, let's see. Super big changeup. I don't know. It's
I
just
thought he
like
just threw like a changeup that I just saw someone report pitching ninja. I think it was like 12 inches of movement on this changeup or something stupid, like today, like something like that. Yeah. So
yeah. I just feel like he's more hittable, or just he's pitches to more contact. I'm trying to let me. Is he a high whip guy? It just in my head. I mean,
1.1, yeah, 1.13, 1.16, yeah. But I mean, he strikes out close to basically 200. He strike
yeah.
out one an inning. I mean, it would like it to be maybe a little higher, but it's not
I'm
like
I'm splitting hairs here because honestly, Framber was the quality start king. What was it last year or 2022? He
that was
blew
the
everybody
last year.
away.
Yeah, was it last year? I think it was.
So
Oh no, it might have
obviously,
been 2022. Yeah, I can't remember.
going a full 6 innings often,
Yeah.
keeping the ERA in check, good
Maybe
amount
just
of
there's nothing
strikeouts.
like sexy, I guess. Like it's just consistent, like you said. Like nothing sexy, but it's just like you're gonna get this every time. Six
Yeah, and
innings,
honestly, we're
strikeouts, a walk or two
we're
walks.
talking SB2.
Yeah,
Like sometimes it's good to look at tiers, like we have been in our
yeah,
last pods and grouping them. But sometimes with pitchers, it's just like, who am I good with as my SB2,
yeah,
and just like give a chunk. Even though like you can put some near the top or some near the bottom, but sometimes I do that in my head more so than like all these many little tiers of
yeah.
fours and fives and stuff.
It-
I just like, who am I willing to have SB2? All right, these,
yeah, yeah.
15 or whatever.
15.
So
Yeah, that's how I view it. Because like many tiers for pitchers, like we said, like it's just you can get like 20 guys in a tier. Like it's just and then you just shake that you shake the dice, you shake it up, and then you're like, what did you
Hmm.
get? And I'm like fine with it, most of them, because yeah, that's I guess that's a good way to look at it. Like SB 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and like who are you good with in these positions? And if you get like a guy you viewed as SB 2 when you're 3, then you win. But like yeah, just aim for somebody you're comfortable with in each of your tiers, basically. Like and the tiers, yeah, they bleed into each other a lot. So yeah, I get that. I would group Logan Gilbert in there with them. Like I think he's just like what you described about um um Framber, the same. Doesn't do anything, I don't think, overly sexy. Just does a little bit, I think, less talented than Framber, but is basically the same. Like, not gonna like, oh my gosh, did he have this like 10 strikeout game? Is this crazy? He's just like he's got like last 2 years, he's gonna throw 190 innings. He's gonna strike out 190 guys. He's gonna have a whip
Hmm.
of like 1.1, and he's gonna have a 2.4, 2.3, 2.4 ERA. Like nothing gonna be crazy, but that's what you want from a two guy. He's gonna fill up innings. He's gonna be healthy, and he's not gonna hurt you on anything. And he's gonna help you. You get 190 innings of good starts. We just talked about it, like with some of the other guys like Max Fried and Glass. Now, like you don't know what you're gonna get. You might get 8 innings from Glass now. Like
Right.
knock on wood, I hope you don't, but like that's a very real possibility. And so like that there's nothing to scoff at with this Framber and Logan Gilbert of like nothing sexy, just a quality start every start is a very very good pitcher in today's baseball. Like yes, that's why they're tier 2. So I group Zach Eflin with them as well. Same thing basically. Like good pitcher, nothing sexy, strike out an inning, whip of 1.1.
Hmm.
Same thing basically. And in Tampa Bay, always helps to pitch in Tampa Bay because they're ninjas. So it's the same thing. Like it's just what it is. My only question is, what is your thoughts on Grayson Rodriguez? Obviously, all the hype. I don't know if it lived up to it, but again, it was his first year. 120 innings. He's 24. Like, do you think massive step forward, or is that kind of who he is, or what? What do you think? 'Cause I know the prospects kind of cooled off on him after last year a little bit. Like it was coming up and
Yeah.
cooled off a little bit, but you know how pitchers are. Year in and year out. So you think there's more room in there for upside?
Yeah, because I think it was a tale of two halves. Honestly, like you look at his season stats and you're like, why is he ranked this high?
Yeah.
And then you look how he finished the second half of the season, say pretty much when they kind of called him back up. So July through the end of the year. And it's like, oh, okay, I see why. He had his bumps, he had his bruises. You saw flashes in the first half. And then they pulled him late May, and he didn't come back till mid July, so right after the All Star break. But it's he had the hype, he had the prospect pedigree. I think he's starting to put it together in the second half, and it's not how you start, it's how you finish. So I'm with it. I'm willing to go SB2 fringe SB3 here, um, and see what he's got to offer. And you know what? Maybe he comes buddy buddy with Corbin Burns, or at least just watches and learns a little bit. But yeah, I'm on board. How
Yeah.
about you?
Uh, I'm. I mean, it's a common trend with me. I'm always a little hesitant on pitchers when it's just like it's a very small, good sample size. Like you said, like
Hmm.
I agree. Second half is better. I'm just like in the 60s. I'm always just a little scared because I'm just gonna take like a Zach Eflin or a Joe Musgrove or Dylan Cease. I'm gonna roll with them versus a Grayson Rodriguez, and I get that's a my style versus like a what I think is probably the norm. Which obviously these guys, the industry has viewed it as higher, and I get that. I just like a safer bet with my pitchers just because like I looked at this our league last year that we were in here, and I drafted 3 guys in the top 6 rounds, and all 3 of them got hurt for like at least a month and a half. So I'm just like, I just feel like my pitchers, I'm like, I need someone who is going to be healthy because I'm like, if
Yeah.
there's a question, my guy's arm's just gonna fall off. So it's always seems to be that way. So I think it's just like PTSD from me in the past that I'm like, I just need health. Like I don't go outside with pitchers because I never get it. So
Yep. And if one knock against Grayson, it's always been kind of the command question mark, and I think we saw a better of it. He added a sinker, and so it's just like I I get where you're coming from. He's only 24 though, and I
Yeah, no, yeah.
feel like if you're willing to let him slide, I would totally be more comfortable as a SP3. So maybe he does need to slide rankings wise a little bit.
He's my top tier of SB3. Like he's my top tier, and if you
Okay, cool.
SB2, that's totally fine. Because again, like
Yeah,
because I'll go against the grain of the industry on this one, where they're like, well, he was hyped and then he fell off. I'm like, I don't think you fall off in like a year coming because he got hurt the year before. So I'm like, I'm not buying like that half season where he was hurt and they're like, well, he's not as good anymore. I'm like, I'm still buying like the talent is from like the beginning. Like we have a longer track record of being really talented. So I'm like, so I bump him up more because I bump him down because like I haven't seen it in the rankings, but I also bump him up because I'm like, look, I'm trusting the talent from what was coming up from like 3 years, of him coming up versus like
yeah,
season where we fell because he was like the number one prospect or number two prospect in some rankings.
yeah,
And then he like fell
yeah.
off lists, and I'm like, "What are we doing here, guys? Like, this didn't just like stop being a good baseball player." You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
I
he's
get
not Patrick Corbin. Shots fired.
so
Sorry.
wow. I was like, I feel like I get like pitchers are like finicky, but like that's just ridiculous. To how fell he? I feel like he fell off, and then everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I remember Grayson Rodriguez." I'm like, the guy, because this was last year. I was like, the guy's 23. What do you mean you remember Grayson Rodriguez? Like he didn't go. Like he's still a prospect. He's still a kid. Like
Mm-hmm.
nothing happened to him. So like I was just like, guys, like I think they overcorrected, like because of past injuries with like kids and like pitchers and stuff like that. So I'm like, it's just so I bump him up, yeah, to like end of tier, like SB2, top of SB3, like totally fine with either of those. But I tend to be SB3, but that's fine. So Blake Snell, I don't really think where he goes matters, honestly. Strikeout, walk guy, that's any ballpark. The strike zone doesn't change. Obviously, there's some home run parks that affect this, but like
Mm-hmm.
in the grand scheme of things, he is not wanting to hit the ball. We talk about Corbin Burns not wanting to hit the ball. Blake Snell, you just don't hit the ball. Like whether it's you're at first base or you're in the dugout, one of the two is happening. Like that's the goal. Like with Blake Snell. So I just don't really care where he goes. I don't think it affects it too much. I'm just like, it's just inconsistency in how healthy he's going to be, and that's where I think this is probably about 20th, 21st, where this is fine for him. Like you're taking a gamble on him, and worst side of a gamble is he pitches 120 innings and ERA of 4. But he's gonna strike a ton of people out, so it's not like he's gonna kill
Yeah.
you. He's always gonna strike a ton of people out. So that totally fine with that. But the walks are going to be a lot, so you know what you're getting with that. But it's just how many innings and how often he's going to be able to sneak out of the jams and with those walks because he's going to have a high whip. But playable, serviceable 20 because he's going to strike out so many freaking dudes. Like that's just what it's going to be. So I don't have a problem with it. Do you have a problem with him around 20th? Like I don't think it matters where he pitches at all.
Not really.
We're getting to the point where it might matter just because like, are you going to be ready for opening day? Like is the only question. But I think 20 is fine. Like,
yep. I would. I guess. I mean, we're 17th of March right now, and doesn't have a team. So
I think like by tomorrow, Monday, like we're recording on Sunday, I think he's signing with somebody. I think he'll sign
I
with
think
somebody.
it definitely would be the week to do it. So yeah.
So I'm not too worried about it right now. I mean, if we record this in a week, then I'll definitely be dropping him up, maybe a bit because I'm like it's gonna take you like 2 weeks, maybe. Might miss a couple starts, but like again, like missing 2 starts isn't gonna make you drop like a round or two. It's just like maybe a couple spots, just because I don't know where you're at this point. But like, if you told me like, would you take him over Joe Ryan? I'd still take him over Joe Ryan if he doesn't sign. Like, because the upside's there. Just I would like to sign. So I know that you're like actually gonna play baseball this year. So
yeah, please.
Yeah, please. Bobby Miller, Jesus Luzardo, Joe Ryan, Justin Steele. Again, all of them have questions. All of them have positives. I'm shake up the bingo wheel. I don't really. I mean, I guess my preference is I go in this order: Bobby Miller, Justin Steele, Luzardo, Joe Ryan. Because I like the Joe Ryan. I actually might think is like the safest of the 4. But the least sexy of the 4. And at this round, I'm kind of willing to take a little dice on the sexiness, maybe, because you're SB2, maybe 3, depending on your league. So I'm willing to bet up to go upside on an SB3. So that's where I'm at with this one. What about you?
Oh man, yeah.
You can make it bigger too. You can
Yeah.
organize this if you want to talk about them too. As
Oh, keep going down.
if you want, like, where you think with these guys, or if there's somebody else, I know you're a big Joe Musgrove fan. So do you think Joe Musgrove should be up here? What do you think?
Absolutely. I'd put Joe Musgrove probably.
And I see it. That's
Yeah.
what we're saying. Like the tiers here are
That's
huge.
okay. I'll go
But yeah,
Bobby and then I'll go Joe. But yeah.
yeah, I just think
Um,
he's like upside is a lot. It could be a lot, but yeah, Joe Musgrove. Yeah.
yeah. I'm starting to just see names below this. I'd have to get out like an Excel spreadsheet and make my own tier. Like,
No, yeah,
just trying to
it's
go off fantasy pros so people can kind
we
of
could
follow
just kind of
along.
bounce around too, because we could
But
talk about every guy here from now. Like honestly, like we could
right.
bounce around for as we like. But yeah, because starting pitchers, it could be a 2 hour podcast.
But I no, right. I agree about what you said about Joe Ryan at least. So I
He's only
see
27.
Joe Musgrove. He
Mm.
kind of stands out to me. Justin Steele seems like super much like Joe Ryan. Like I feel like it's a really good floor. I don't know about the ceiling, but like it'd be totally great with an SB2. SB3 would be even more amazing. And I almost want to put Bailey Ober in there as well as just kind of, you know, fastball slider cutter, solid.
Talk about underrated guys. Bailey Ober. I mean,
Yeah.
he hasn't pitched a ton, but just like it's good innings. It's been good innings from the drop. Like really.
Yeah. And I know I'm looking way down there because Ober's, where'd he go?
He's
He's
not
34th.
34. Like it's not like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yuri Perez, I was fanboy of it last year. He's dealing with a little bit of here and there. So it's like it was a broken fingernail, and then wasn't it just recently was it the elbow or the shoulder that was a little bit sore?
Broken nail.
All I see is the fingernail, but
Yeah,
I thought he had something else.
it does make me nervous because he's so young that teams are like tend to be like overly cautious with these very very young guys. He's
Yeah,
already on a pitch limit. He's already going to be on innings. I think that's my biggest factor is like how many innings are you going to simply get out of them? 130? You think this year? Like he's just not going to get a full season out of them, and so that's why I'm like drafting him this high to get maybe 130 innings out of this guy.
yeah, that was a big thing last year. Is they finally they turned him off. They shut him
Yeah.
down. I think he got 120 total, if I remember right, ish. So I mean,
Oh, did
maybe
he
you
really?
would
Oh,
hope
okay.
for
Okay.
150 ish.
He got 90 in the
But
majors.
yeah,
And then, okay. So, okay. Yeah, I don't think he's still
super
going to get the
young.
full season. He's
He's
projected for
20.
140. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he's 20 years old, and
Next 20.
honestly, I don't know if he has the best fastball in the league, but it's just so good. So it's just like he's 20. And
Yeah,
like
no,
that's what I think
yeah.
of when I think of Uri Perez. It's just like, oh my gosh, that fastball's so good, and his secondaries are pretty solid. So
I think
it's
this is
just
the right spot for him, around 30th, just because he's just not going to pitch the whole year. Stuff
right.
is he's just not going to pitch the full season. Like
Yeah. So to me, it's
yeah.
just fun to have him on your roster
Yeah.
and be it. That's the whole point of the fancy baseball, and it's just that's the fun. So fun factor is in the plus column for
Oh,
Yuri.
I'm looking where I would jump him up. Like if you told me he pitched a full season, he was healthy,
Oh
like
sure, yeah,
he was skyrocket. I'm looking up here. I'm like, oh man, he's going up. Like he's above Scooble and Webb, just like stuff wise. I'm like, oh my gosh, but like he's just not going to pitch, and it does say something. It's not just simply you just can't like extrapolate like 80 innings and be like, oh, it's 190, 190 now. This because things happen. You get tired as the season goes on. A lot of things can happen. So it's just not. You just can't be like, oh, you're just going to be as effective you are over 80 for 200. It doesn't work that way. So how you hold up also means a lot. So how you're holding up too. Some of that like ultimate. The Cincinnati Reds are sorry. They're like the ultimate. Like there's so many flashes, and this could be crazy. But like Ellie De La Cruz again is the same way. It's like that 1 for 4 is just gonna be so electric. Hunter Green, like his days where he's on, it's like, oh my god, like it's must see TV. But then there's other days where it's just like it's not on, and you're like, okay, I see why you have an ERA of 4.5. But like, man,
Right.
if you can just like figure out some of that talent, and I don't know if the Reds are the team to do it too. That which kind of makes me like nervous because like if he could get traded to the Dodgers, oh my gosh, like the sky's the limit for this guy. Because like I'm not saying it's the Reds. You know, he's still a kid. Like he's still 24 season. You know, it throws crazy hard. Like I'm just like, but man, like talent is out of this world. Just like be consistent. Like hit your spots like a little bit better because he's in a rough ballpark too. For when you throw that hard and you play in that small of a ballpark, it doesn't take a
Oh
lot.
yeah.
Does not take a lot of contact to go out. So, or find a gap. So, man, I like me some Hunter Green. I really like me
Yeah.
some Hunter Green upside at least. So
Well, the
36.
last two,
Yeah.
I say the last two starts of September exactly encapsulates what he's capable of. He faced Minnesota, 14 strikeouts, one earned run across 7 innings, 1 walk, and then he follows that up against Cleveland. Okay, again, it's away, it's at Cleveland, but oh my gosh, he gave up 7 over 3 innings with only 3 Ks and 1 walk.
Yeah.
Um, man, does he have like this correlation of away versus home? I'd have to
I'm looking
switch
at like,
sites to
yeah,
look at it,
I'm
but
looking at like past August, ERA 24, 12, 0, 0. like 4. Okay, solid start. 1, like you said, 14, 21, 7. Like, dude, like there's like nothing in the middle. It's like double digits or under 1.5. Like, I'm just
yeah,
like,
it's
and
still
some of these whips were like 0.8, like 0.5. Like,
right.
just, man, just get some consistency, buddy, because like sky's the limit talent wise. Like you're on, no one's hitting it. Just period. Like seriously. Like
Why did I think he was a lefty? I don't know. That doesn't really matter,
yeah,
but
I don't.
in my head, he was a lefty. So anyway, he always had the kind of the huge arm, health question mark. He's eclipsed 112 innings last year, 125. Hunter Green, yeah, another one, yeah, super fun. I like how he finished that month of September though, like almost no walks. He was
He was on Sports
just
Illustrated.
really,
He was the kid on Sports Illustrated years ago.
yeah, I think so.
Good player. Yes, he
Yeah.
was. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Sonny Gray's a name that I'm just like super consistent. I'm liking it. I hate that he's dealing with a
Did I say the name?
hamstring, but
I missed it. What? Who?
Sonny Gray, good ratios. I just like the hamstring is obviously the question mark. Hopefully, he only misses a couple weeks to start the
Gets it done.
season.
Like what? I mean,
Yeah,
at a certain point, you get it done. Strikeout. We talk about like he's exactly what I said. 1.1, 1.13 ERA, strikeout an inning, solid ERA. That's it. That is Sonny Gray. The last 2 years, it's just been like I'm gonna get you a strikeout an inning and a 1.1 whip. Like that doesn't sink you. People want the upside guys, and I get it, but like the Bailey Obers, and I feel like the Bailey Obers, the Sonny Grays, the other guys are like they cash checks. You know what I mean? Like they're gonna
hmm
get you the fantasy playoffs because they're gonna pitch, their 180 innings, get you 180 strikeouts, and get you a decent whip and a decent ERA, and that's what you need. Like I feel like that's what you need. You don't hit, what was it? You don't strike out a home run. You just hit a couple doubles. And then take gambles on the home runs later. Just yeah, I agree completely with
right.
plays in St. Louis. Louis does pitchers. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
forever. Like yes,
We talk about like organizations, and there's always like these trends, right? Types of players, types of Tanner Beebe. Just want to point it out. He fits the Cleveland mold. A horrible fastball and amazing secondaries, and so it's just like, where do you put a guy like that? He just completed his first season Major League Baseball, right? I'm like, I'd be okay with an SP3. I just don't think he's got much of a ceiling because of the, I'll say maybe average fastball. But
you
again, for
describe every Cleveland pitcher.
that's what I'm saying.
Open.
That's
How does that
Cleveland.
bullpen? You describe every Cleveland pitcher.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, like, Cleveland knows how to make the most of these guys, but it's just crazy how they all fit that same profile.
Nothing sexy. Shane Bieber used to be, but I don't think he's that guy anymore. Still very good. He's only 28. Like, I mean, he could. I mean, Shane Bieber could, I guess. Like, he could always like turn into a monster again. But yeah, like just Tanner Beebe, Savali, like all these guys, like they're just like it's super boring. It's like the Marco Gonzalez shirt, like not sexy, but it cashes checks. It just cashes checks.
Right.
Like
Okay, so are you ready? I've been waiting. I don't know. He's way off the beaten path, but
okay,
he's
go.
kind of. I think he was your boy before he. Feel like you had him on the radar. I don't want to like snipe your boy, but I feel like if we're gonna pick a dude that's gonna jump the most this year in the rankings, this is the guy I'm picking.
Is he pitch for Tampa Bay?
No, he pitches for the Mariners.
Oh, okay.
And this offseason, we're talking about, oh, who would you trade out of the Young Bucks? And I was like, you know what? I haven't really looked at, Bryce Miller versus Brian Wu.
I have very strong opinions. Yeah.
You have very strong opinions. And so I have landed on Brian Wu. I feel like is going to jump. And I feel like right now he's ranked 50th, ADP at 188. I feel like this next year, he could be around 100th. Like, I feel like he could be an SB2 next year. So I want you to take it away, but that's my just kind of like, I finally did my research
Yeah.
and oh my goodness.
Wu basically threw one pitch for 82 innings last year and had a 4.2 ERA and basically dominated righties. Just got hit by lefties. And it simply just came down to he did not have a secondary pitch. And all indications are that's all he did off season, which is obviously what you're supposed to do. He was a serviceable, very good major league pitcher with literally, I can't stress this enough, one pitch, and he threw it all the time. And the opposite hand batters dominated it because they could see it. He could throw one pitch to righties all day and still dominate. It just was such a good fastball. But it was just like he was just living off of it. He used to be a closer and coming up and everything like that, and they turned him into a starter. And it's just like, well, you just need a secondary pitch. You just need one that looks like your fastball, and then the sky's the limit. And that's that's just described what JT said. Like if Wu can just like in actual games when they actually matter, can throw that secondary pitch for a strike, or it looks a lot like his fastball, sky's the limit for this guy because that fastball. We talked changeups a lot. That fastball people talk about like might be one of the best 5 in baseball. Like it's just so good, but just can he? There'll be a definite cap to his ceiling if he cannot figure out a secondary, and it's not a guarantee. But
Right.
he does. Like JT said, watch out. Like sky's the limit.
Yeah, I'm obviously as a Mariners fan. I'm super hopeful and excited for it. But even just as a fancy baseball player, that's immense potential. That's like you said, he threw one pitch and he had such an average year, and so it's just like if that's his floor, and it was his first season in the big leagues, and how old is he?
24.
20. Yeah, 24. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm good with that too.
I have a guy who's a riser, and I've been on him, and he just needs to just play Shane Baz for the Tampa Bay Rays. Coming off a pretty serious injury, but he's gonna play it mid-season. But I'm just saying, if you got a keeper league or something like that, please snag this guy. I don't think this is the year he takes the step because that first year back we talked about who was it? Earlier we just talked about him. You talked about him. You really liked him, and he was coming off an injury. And I was gonna say this, but it's usually not the first year that's coming post like Tommy John or something like that. It's the following year where you actually get that arm strength back. I can't remember who you're talking about, but he's gonna get a half a season of post Tommy John surgery. Tampa Bay Rays already definitely know what they're doing, and I'm just like, get your checks cashed now with Shane Baz. I love this guy. He's only 24 still, coming off. They're saying mid-year return, so around the All-Star break, he's going to come. So, yes, I am going to get the shares of Shane Baz. Spoiler alert here. So, I think he's going to be the highest riser because he's starting so much further down than Wu, I think. So, it's really not that fair, but yeah. But I'll win on a technicality. I'll take the technicality.
Right.
But yeah, that's a guy I really like. I feel like Kodai Senga is Am I missing something? Why is he so low? He's
He's injured.
That's it. Okay, sorry. That's it. Okay. Oh, okay. Yep. No, I just see it. Like what?
Shoulder.
Yep. Okay. I just must have missed that somehow. I'm like, how dare this man be 53rd overall? Like, I was like, what? He's behind Nathan Avaldi. Like, what are we doing
Right.
as an industry? Like, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, talent
Yeah, we're
wise, just be healthy. Like, yes.
yeah, early May, so he's gonna miss a
Okay.
month. Yeah, shoulder. Got
I
the
still
PRP injection, so I
told me he
think
misses a month. I still have him over Nathan Avaldi. So there we go. But yeah, yeah.
yeah, I that was probably one of my blind spots last year. I saw him for the first month and I dropped him, and now he's probably a sweet keeper on one of our in our keeper league. And if they didn't keep him,
He is not.
yep,
He's not kept.
dummies.
Well, actually, I
But
have one person that I have to double check that if they kept him. But yeah, I don't.
yeah, I was so worried about his whip. He was just so awful in that first month, and the whip. I was just like, I can't survive this. And I got him super late in our draft because he's kind of that question mark coming over from Japan. So,
Yeah.
wow, he proved me wrong at least last season. So yeah, you always want to see all the players be healthy, but it's baseball. It's not realistic. It was like the kid I pegged during batting practice. I hit him square in the butt, and I was like, "Hey, sorry I did that, but at least we got that out of the way." And so you're going to get hit again because honestly, in little league, I would say I'm probably a little bit more of a consistent pitcher than a 9-year-old. So not to brag or anything, but like you need to be ready to be hit again. But guess what? If you get hit, you get on base. So
That's true.
I'm trying to spin it, but he was hurt. He wasn't
He's
really
hurt.
feeling it.
What,
But
what do you think about Walker Bueller? I mean, he probably is going to miss like about a month. Is that's the last I heard? Is that what you heard?
I was it they're just gonna wait, and they kind of want him to finish the season and be available for the playoffs, and
Yeah,
just the innings count. I'm okay with it because honestly, I would totally
that's what they
have.
want, right? Fantasy at the end of the season, like
Yeah, and
he
he
comes
was
back and is ready to go. Like boom,
yeah,
like
he was almost gonna pitch at the end of September this last year, and they were
okay.
like, nah, not we don't need that. That's cool, but
The
thanks.
Otani years next year, so don't worry about it. Like
Right.
yeah, Otani
So
year. Yeah, don't worry about it.
I think I think they're just pacing him, and I would totally have him here if you can get him. I mean, what's his ADP has got to be so much higher than his actual rank because on
Walker Bueller,
it's
170.
47 rank, but
Yeah,
149 ADP.
149, 173 overall. Yeah, depending on ADP over versus overall. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Walker Bueller fan.
Yep. Me too.
Honestly, he could if you said he did 100 and what 20 to 140 maybe innings. I mean, it was the last 2/3 of the season. I feel like he'd be squarely in the top 20. Right around that 20 range, 25. I don't. As long as the command comes back, that's the only question mark. Like you just said, it's nice to see that transition season coming off Tommy John, and then the next full season really gaining it all back. So might be his kind of transition, but we know what he's capable of. So if he can put it all together for the last couple months, he'd be a really great fancy
He's
playoff push
29.
for you.
He's pretty old, actually, or older than I thought he was. Usually it's the other way. I just was like, I always think someone's like young, older than they are, and I'm like, oh, Walker Bueller was older than I thought he was. Interesting.
Right.
I also think people are sleeping on Yu Darvish a little bit. I know he's 37, but had a little hiccup last year. What? It's just his whip was really high and he was hurt. But other than that, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the ERA, like fluctuates, thing. But his whip is around, like it's just like I feel like it was like a one. Yeah, he's almost never had a 1.3 whip in his career. Has had one in. I guess he only had 8 games that year, 40 innings. But other than that, he's never had anything at any point. I don't know if he always takes care of himself. He's usually pretty healthy and pretty stable. So it might be the beginning of the end. But I feel like he takes so good care of himself. I just feel like last year was like a random bump. At 36, it happens, but. I'm not saying like
Yeah.
he's gonna cry, but I think he is undervalued here. Like I feel like He's very consistent. He's like we just talked about. He's like the not sexy guy anymore, but he's going so much lower than the other non-sexy guys we talked about. I feel like there's some value here still in Yu Darvish that people are kind of sleeping on still. 40,
Yeah, I
75th
feel like
overall. Yeah.
last year might have been like
If you
a
think that, then
low.
yeah, maybe like yeah,
No,
because
no, just
if he
like
gets
one of
to
those like
six, like
lower percentile outcomes. I don't think
okay,
that's him, but I feel like it almost feels like each year he not has a different approach because he has got 7 pitches. There's a lot of ways to approach an at bat, but he's a true like pitcher in a sense. Like he's got a really good four seamer and he's got a lot of good off speed stuff. It's just like we always talked about when he was elite. It was just like, man, how many pitches do you need? Like that's just
Mhm.
how can you be consistent at all of it? Now that where it's at, it's kind of fun. It's kind of like
Yeah.
okay, I feel like he can really almost like a what was it, Greinke Astros vibe, where it was just like, okay, you still got some juice in the tank, like you know what you're doing, and I'd be totally fine with him as like my SP4 ish,
Yeah.
and yeah, I'd be down.
I mean, last since 2017, we're talking not 2020 because obviously 2020 and 2018 he got hurt like right off the rip. So again, he played 40 innings. We're talking 200 strikeouts. Boom. I mean, 199. I'm going to give him 200.
Hmm.
Like 1.1 WHIP. ERA fluctuates, but that's a BABIP sort of thing. The peripherals aren't changing. He's striking out like 29 per, 29%. So the ERA fluctuation is like a BABIP thing. It's a luck thing. He's not really controlling that a ton. So, but it's just like, he's going to keep doing this. He's going to get you like 190 innings. It's just like boom, boom, boom. Here you go. This is what it's going to be. And then the ERA is just what it's going. That's just the randomness of baseball. But like, and then last year was a little bit of a hiccup, and I'm like, I feel like we're dropping him too far just from like one hiccup year where he's been very consistent since 2017 of like who he is. And I think maybe some of it's like, man, had a hiccup. He's turning 37. I'm like, it wasn't like that major of a hiccup even. So I'm just like,
Hmm.
clearly the whip is like freaked out a little bit, and I'm like, that's a really big jump. And like, I mean, we talked about it. Cliffs could happen, but I'm not gonna bank on a cliff like that steep. Maybe I get burned, but I'm just like, you Darvish is gonna be fine. He's probably gonna get a little worse, but he's gonna be fine, and he's not like you said, SV4. I'm like, yeah, absolutely, sign me up for you, Darvish.
Yeah.
Um, let's see here. Who else? Who else want to talk about? We got a lot of guys. I gotta try to narrow down who about.
I guess I maybe talk about the other Japanese pitcher, Shota
Right?
Imanaga. I think
Yeah.
how you pronounce it. I feel like he's going to get you a good amount of strikeouts, but I feel like he might give you a lot of home runs. He has a splitter and a curve, and so I'm just worried about the volatility. Let's put it that. So I don't know where his command will lie, but I feel like he's definitely an S. I feel like he's an SP4 at the worst. Where did I just see his name go? Is he
Oh, I just saw him too.
Iman 51 ADP 192? Oh
Okay.
gosh, yeah. I'd totally be fine if
Yeah.
he was my fifth SP. So it's just another name. Just like we
Like,
don't know exactly what to expect with the
we
transition.
get down here with like a Brandon Pfaadt, Savali, Peraltas. These are like the non-sexy guys. I feel like, and
Hmm.
there's nothing wrong with that. But like, like I go all the way down to like, who was it? Like Steven Matz for St. Louis, at like 110 or 101 on overall. He's the same. I just have him as like the same. Like again, nothing sexy, but as a starter when he's starting, the stats are there. And
Hmm.
I just feel like he's really underrated for that. I'm not saying like even be a SP5, but I'm saying like if you're running around like some of these like because we're talking like like Kikuchis or like some of these other guys like well I'm just looking at them like Seth Lugo. I'm like if you're running there and you're having to waste like a draft pick on him or something like that, I go a different route and then I just pick up a Steven Mass in free agency after the draft's over. If something is not there that I like I'm willing to go on a late like oh I'll take a late flyer on a bat or something like that, like versus like man do I just really spend a late round pick on a John Gray, I just like
Hmm.
I just bypass all of these guys just because I'm like during the season I know I can get like I think like a Seth Lugo who I really like just because of like or Steven Matz like because like as a starter he was like I viewed him as a lot like how I viewed Zach Wheeler. I was like guy who didn't get a really good crack, and when he did start, he never got a chance to keep starting. And I'm like, once he is a starter, and that's what St. Louis is going to do, he's going to be a pretty good starter. And so I think he climbs up these rankings too because I'm like, we're just going to start. And so
Yeah.
I am going to fill out my roster with like guys like that versus like spend late round draft picks on people. I'm like, I'm gonna get a Steven Matz like in free agency after the draft's over. You know, so someone gets hurt like week one, I'm like, Steven Matz, he's gonna get me, he's gonna pitch for me, and that's what's gonna be. And it's gonna be like mid threes ERA. It's not gonna be sexy, but like I'm
Mm-hmm.
not like I'm gonna take gambles on starters that I have on my roster. And Steven Matz is the guy that's going to come in and fill out what I need. Like at the end, my back, you know, I'm very like risk averse in the beginning of it, but I'm going to take some gambles on like SP4, SP5, even like the last couple guys that aren't playing for me. You know, like got a couple other options there. I'll take gambles on those guys. But Steven Matz is again, they're guys that bounce me out at the end. You got to have some savory and some sweet, and he's sweet. You got to have a little spice, but he's going to be my sweet at the end. Like
Mm-hmm.
these guys are what's going to keep you like. You don't want to get too hot because you get burned. See that I just came up with that. You get too hot, you're gonna get burned. Like, you gotta have somebody balance things out, and those are the guys that like really people need to focus on. Is like, okay, they're not gonna be sexy, but they're gonna keep you afloat. They're gonna keep you afloat when like
Right.
these other guys are hurt or like struggling, or you know your Hunter Greens are like got a 27 ERA for you on the week, and you might lose that week, but it's like, oh my gosh, like I still need to win some other categories. The Steven Matzes are like, we're gonna get you a strikeout and netting, and we have a 2 start week. Like here you go. Like those are the guys. Like give me
Yeah.
a quality start here, you know, because I could throw a bunch of pitches, and I'm a vet, you know. Like those are the guys, and because a lot of those guys are just like you look at them and you're like, oh, that guy's been good, but I'm like, but like they're not that guy anymore. Like I just like a John Gray. I'm like, I don't even think you're gonna get a quality start. I'm just gonna be honest. I just don't know if you're even gonna do that. So like, but I'm just gonna roll with Steven Matz versus those other guys because everyone's like, I'm gonna rush to pick up a John Gray. I'm like, no, you just remember from the playoffs. like
Yeah.
I get a guy who actually I think's better. Like,
The the era we're in, the driveline era, the amount of data and everything, pitchers I feel like can be the most volatile. Like they can improve their arsenal so much better in an off season. I feel like if you're going to see any type of change, like spring training, you hear about a new pitch or anything, or so yeah, I agree with like your thought on like a Mats type. Like I was gonna talk about Pavetta, where I'm like, the dude added a slider. I think they were calling it a sweeper slider.
yeah,
Anyway, and he just took off. He finally got a starting gig in Boston and second half of the season with that slider, and he's got a good arsenal. Otherwise, it's just like he can face lefties and righties, and he was dicing them. I'm on board to say, hey, the way he's finished that, and he's a vet, he's been around, he's been solid, and so it's just like I'd totally be willing to roll with that based on his ADP, things like that.
yeah, just like watch list a lot of these guys because again, like we talk about it, like everyone wants to pick up the new hot sexy thing, and with pitchers, yeah, like you said, the volatility is just there, and there's something to be said about the not volatile guy. The known
Mm-hmm.
commodity as a starter is very very valuable. It's not the most valuable thing because like those strikeouts and those sexy things are there, but they're gone already. They're gone by like the top. You're past round 10, they're gone. Like there's and then if there is some of that there, the Shane Bazzes they're not going to pitch for half the season, and they're coming off of Tommy John. Like there's huge things around. Like there's huge issues with those like massive talents. Like we're talking like you even get past round 10, we're talking Hunter Green's going in top 10 rounds, and there's
Mm-hmm.
still huge questions there. So it's just like if you want any sort of sexy and consistency, it's going to cost you a premium. And when you're beyond that, I honestly just think about like kind of covering your ass at that point. Like, okay, you can get enough sexy, but if you got enough sexy, you've got to get a base, and you've got to get.
That's a really good point. Like, how much risk have you taken? Do you need more? Yeah, do you need more ratios? I was just looking at a Chris Bassett, a Jose
Yeah.
Barrios.
Yes.
Do you need something like that, or have you taken some really like solid, really good starting pitching, and you want to see? I just had this side thought, how like defensive ends have been starting to do like in football, and like they go to DN, they have this clinic in the off season, they all just learn each other's moves. Can we do that for pitching, but the types of pitchers? Like I was looking at Brian Bello, and I'm just like, man, if he could just be Logan Webb,
Just
he
signed
could
Black
be
Fellow.
Logan Webb.
Just signed. They
And
just signed him. Yeah.
and so I was just like, wouldn't it be cool if like pitchers with similar arsenals go and learned off of each other? Because like that's Bello. Like the potential of the fastball changeup is a Logan Webb. So it's just like,
That's a good
yeah.
point. Yeah. He's a later talent guy that hasn't realized it yet. I've rostered
Mm-hmm.
Bello a couple times in the past of like, hey, we got to start against the Tigers, let's see what we can do here. And yeah, he's just like madly frustrating because he's just a less Hunter Green basically. It's like, oh man, if you just, you can figure this out. So yeah, like it's the opposite. Like if you've got enough base early, Brian Bellows are huge, or that Shane Bazas are huge. Like those guys, like later, like hey, here's some risk. But so I think that's a good point. You need both. Like you need both of pitchers because you can roster a bunch of non-sexy guys, and I don't know if that's going to win you anything. You need to have your sweet and sour. You need to have your Sour Patch
Mm-hmm.
Kids. You've got to have both.
Yeah.
And if you don't have both, like one of too much of the other, like your ratios or your ERA is going to be screwed. Like you've got to figure out you've got to figure out which one you need and draft accordingly.
Right. And honestly,
you're bases with like offense. It's you've got to figure out which one you want. Like
yeah.
that's a both.
And I think the format that you play in might dictate your recipe. Let's say, building off what you're saying, the sweet and sour. Your roto league might have a different recipe. You might need to get a certain amount of inning, standard, fantasy would be like 1,000 innings for like, the industry standard. But maybe you're in a home league and it's head to head like our home league is, and feel like that's a different recipe of if the type of risk of starters that you need to mix in. So take that into consideration.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. There's starting pitchers are super fun, but they can also be super maddening when you have 100 Green and then he throws 27 ERA and then you're like, well, my weakest shot, but that's the pool you play in sometimes. And man, when he's on though, win you a week. So yeah, that's why I like pitchers so much because there's so many of them too. Obviously, it's like outfielders, but like obviously more. We have 3 outfielders. You have 5 starting pitchers per team. So there's so much, and like even more than outfielders, always people pop every year. We just talked about Woo. Woo. No one, so many people hadn't heard of Woo before, and now it's like okay, Woo's like really interesting for a lot of people. So this they get hurt all the time. There's and teams carry so many of them. So there are so many of these guys that are going to pop during the year too. So please don't like. It's almost like you don't want to draft them. You want to draft enough that you have that base we talked about. But if you draft too many of them and you're like set on too many of them, I ran into this, but you're like, I have like 7 for sure starters. Well, now you're just kind of like, what do you do when these guys get called up and you want to take a chance on somebody? You have to like get rid of one of the guys that you're like for sure on. Like it just kind of feels like you're stuck. So I'm almost like, don't go too crazy on it because you have some room because it's gonna happen. It's going Yuri Perez. What's gonna happen when these guys pop? Yuri Perez is like, boom, came out of nowhere and is like the 29th pitcher. Like we're like, oh my gosh, like here we go. Like Justin Steele blew up last year. Like you're just like guys, like some of these guys you have not paid attention to them. So leave room to like dip your toe and have some fun,
Yeah, and honestly, now that I'm kind of looking at it, I'm kind of 10,000 foot view right now. I'm just kind of scrolling back and forth sections of pitchers. Out of all the position groups we've covered, again, go check us out, Fancy Dad Pods. We've covered all the other position groups. Pitchers are last here. I've agreed with a lot of the position groups: catchers, first, second, short, third, outfield, even. Outfield you start getting disparity. Yeah. Starting pitchers, I've got. Well, we even just talked about our first 20 or so. I was pretty much on the same page. Oh my gosh, there's names where I'm like, what? What are you doing here? I'd slide that guy way down. That guy's right next to him. Are you kidding me? I'd bump him up 10, because I'm like, well, just disclose. I'm looking at Mitch Keller, Hunter Brown. I'm like, I think I'd roll with Hunter Brown more so for ratios and everything. Mitch Keller might strike out a ton of people, but he also might just totally implode my ratio. So it's just like for them to be in the rankings of 43 and 44 on Fantasy Pros, but it's just so crazy. So I would say out of any position group, I would do the most homework you can on starting pitchers.
It's so funny you mentioned that area because it's Justin Verlander, Jose Barrios, Carlos Rondon, Mitch Keller, Hunter Brown, Yu Darvish, Christian Javier, Walker Buehler, and I go, and none
Up,
of these guys
down,
are near
up,
each
down.
other because some of these guys are way higher or way lower than I think they should be, but none of these guys are
Yeah.
like near each other. I'm like, Christian Javier, Walker Buehler are next to each other. Okay, they're not next to each other in my rankings. like
Right.
Hunter Brown, Yu Darvish, not next to each other in my rankings. I like you. I have Hunter Brown way up. I have Yu Darvish lower, but yeah, Mitch Keller, I have him lower than all three. Uh, Justin Verlander, his is more of like when's he gonna pitch, but like versus Jose Barrios. Jose Barrios is down, Rendon down, Verlander up. Like it's just I'm like so yeah, like you just said, like they're not. Yeah, these guys are nowhere near each other. So
Yeah. So
that's
it's always
like it's just like even in the bottom of the 20, I think I would say like we got to like 13 and we're like okay, I think they're pretty fair there. And then after that, it was like all right, here we go. We're just firing
mm-hmm.
at that point. That's just like where do we like guys after that? Because yeah, unlike because outfielders, I think it's just more of like when there's more to pick from a position, there's just more of them play because it was like I feel like as we went catchers, it was like very like this is like clearly a tier, this is clearly a tier, this is second base clearly a
Mm-hmm.
tier, third base, and then as we get more like there's more outfielders now, there's more pitchers, it just gets like it gets a little bit further down. You're like okay here, and then you go crazy a little bit earlier, but now it's like pitchers, it's like okay we're at 13, and then it's just like free for all. It's like it's go time basically. Honestly, obviously, like you're not gonna no one's gonna have Logan Gilbert as low as like a Bailey Ober. Those are just the first two names I looked at, but like
Mm-hmm.
like it's pretty tiered at the it's like and then tiers are like 20 could be 20 players deep. It's just like pick somebody. Like who do you like you said, it was a great way to describe it is SP1, SP2, SP3, and you're just looking at like how many people you got in each category. Who do you view as an SP1? Who do you view as an SP2? And just pick from the pool. That's it. That's how you have to look at it. Like, yeah, pitchers are
Yeah, I'd say it's
fine.
a good exercise to look at not only kind of rank your own, but then compare it to the ADP of whatever platform you're going to draft on, because Fantasy Pros is giving their own ADP, and so it's nice to have almost a comparison of rankings, and then okay, where's that going? Do I can I wait on the guy that I'm higher on, or is there a guy that is being drafted higher that I'm like, whoa, I'm way kind of out on that. I'll let it slide. Um, so I definitely get used to the ADP of whatever platform you're drafting on, because obviously we're talking pitchers. There's a lot of variation in there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. All right, that's
Cool.
that.
Yep. So obviously we went a whole lot longer on time,
But
but it's worth it because pitchers are probably I have the most fun with them at least. So um, yeah, I don't even know if we have a dad bod. We went through all those pitchers,
I'm
current,
looking at him. I'm
active.
looking at him right now. I'm just looking at his numbers. James Paxton, Dad Bod.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Canadian, gotta give some love, 35. College went to Kentucky, no idea. Would have never guessed Kentucky.
A
So
Canadian that went to Kentucky for college.
I'm just gonna tell you this now. 2013 to 2019, super underrated. Never had an ERA above 3.9. Like just powerhouse, but just could never complete full season. Has never been healthy after that. I mean, we're talking 20 innings, 1 inning, 90 innings. Like if he's healthy, man, the Dodgers just get anything out of him. I'm telling you, like, sorry, James Paxton, right there, Dad Bod.
Tip of the hat. I'm picturing an eagle majestically on his shoulder. I have the bobblehead. Do you have it handy? Yeah.
No, it's in the box over there. So I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
yes,
a great bobblehead. So if you guys don't know what we're talking about, go Google that.
James Paxton Eagle.
It's pretty good video
Where
clip.
did that? Was that Minnesota? It was in Minnesota. There we go.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Good stuff. What do we got? We got 2 Major League Baseball games coming up this week. International.
Same.
I think Yu Darvish and Joe Musgrove were slated to pitch. Do you know who the Dodgers were pitching?
They haven't announced it yet, so
Actually,
that's
that was
why.
the question mark. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they know. Like, I think I got to assume Yamamoto's going to start one of them, right? Like, I would assume because he's one of the. Is Glass now going to start one? I would guess Glass now Yamamoto, but I don't know they've announced it yet.
Right on that behalf.
Because they
So
have to be the two most healthy, and I would think the two most for sure guys on that roster, right now. Are they? Are they? Let me. I'm looking real quick.
I got it here. So I
They do.
got Glass
That's the
now
two they
versus
have in front.
Darvish.
Okay.
Yep, and then I've got, let's say they've
They have
got
Yamamoto listed as
Musgrove versus Yamamoto.
okay.
That's
Because
the way to do it.
another Gavin Stone right now. They don't even on roster resource. They don't even have 5 starting pitchers because roster resource is like I don't know, like because like 5 guys are going to start at some point. So their IL is hilarious and also very sad. I'm so sorry, Dodgers. But I mean, to be fair though, they made this bet. To be fair, like they signed all these pitchers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh
Man, that's hilarious. You gonna get up at 2 in the morning to watch those games?
no, of course not. I'm
Okay.
not a complete degenerate. I thought about it a little bit.
I remember we lived. Did we were still living with each other? Were we living with each other when the Mariners played in Japan that year?
Yep.
And I remember. I don't think you woke up, but I remember waking up, and our other roommate, shout out to Joey, caught me on the couch watching the Mariners because he was watching in his room. So we watched a couple innings together. I did not have to work early. That's why I was able to do that. Joey's a psychopath because he actually had to work early and he got up. I did not have to, so that's totally fine for me. Joey,
Yeah.
because I'm like Joey, you had to be up in like 5 hours, so you're the
Yeah.
one who got up and watched that, and then went to work on like 4 hours of sleep. But
Say, I
we were
think
better
back then.
we could do it back then.
Yeah, I think I've got more and more of a Mariners fan over the years. Back then, I totally remember waking up for Australian Open,
Oh, okay.
which would have been a couple months ago.
Yeah.
So that would have been about the same time zone change. But yeah, that Mariners one was fun. I remember thinking about it, but I probably did have to wake as well. But yeah, Joey's a psycho.
I did remember Dustin
It's
Ackley
just like,
double. That's what I remember from it. I was like Joey waking up and Dustin Ackley hitting a double off the wall. So
yeah.
watch
Cool.
it. He probably never did, and I'm just like going crazy because I was sleeping. Okay, anyways, yeah. Alrighty.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. We appreciate you listening. Take care. Be well. And until next time, see ya.
See ya.